All right, so this whole Zach Bryan and Brianna LaPaglia breakup, huh? Everyone's talking about it, but it's like more than just a celebrity split, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it brings up some really interesting points about fame these days and, social media.
For sure, they seem like they were joined at the hip since they went public back in, what was it, July?
Yeah, July of 23 went to the Grammys together back in February.
Oh, right, the Grammys.
But now Zach just announces the breakup on Instagram like just a couple days ago.
Out of the blue like that.
Well, October 22nd, he made the announcement. And it was interesting, like he was really respectful, towards Brianna, obviously, but you could tell he was going through it.
Yeah, you can tell he was hurting.
Like he even hinted at some stuff he's been dealing with personally.
And Brianna, she's got to be hurting too, right? She basically said she was blindsided by the whole thing.
Totally. She was really open about it, said she needed to take a break from social media, which,
Oh, yeah, I bet.
when you think about it, that's a whole other can of worms, right?
It's like their whole relationship was under a microscope.
It makes you wonder what that does to a person you know. Having millions of people all up in your business.
It's the price of fame, I guess.
Right.
But still, it's got to be rough.
It's that weird thing with social media where it's like, it gives these artists this direct connection to their fans, which is great, but then...
And that goes too far.
Exactly. Like fans start to feel like they have a say in every part of these celebrities' lives, like their relationships.
Right, because they see everything on Instagram.
Right. It's this weird intimacy, but then it's like, whoa, too much information.
Totally, and it's like a constant pressure cooker, right? With everyone watching and commenting.
And the algorithms just make it worse. Zach's had kind of a rough year already, right? With that whole tweet comparing Kanye West to Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah, that was a mess.
Huge backlash.
Definitely didn't go over well.
It put him right in the firing line of public opinion. And while they haven't said anything specific about it, you have to wonder how much that whole experience played a role,
In the stress of the relationship.
Yeah, like being judged and misunderstood so publicly, it takes a toll.
It makes you think about how we protect ourselves emotionally when everything's amplified online.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to understand stuff like this, what I find helpful is like hearing different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever used podcastworld.io?
Podcastworld.io. Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
It's amazing. It's this AI tool. It's like a search engine, but for podcasts.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you can search for information within podcasts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say you're trying to find out how other celebrities deal with breakups or the psychology of social media, that kind of thing.
Okay.
You type it in and boom, it finds the exact podcast segments and talk about it.
That's wild. So you don't have to scrub through hours of audio.
Exactly. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Zach and Brianna. This breakup didn't really come out of nowhere. There were signs.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, just a few days before Zach's announcement, Brianna was on her podcast, BFFs, and she actually denied that they were breaking up.
Interesting. So maybe they were trying to work things out privately?
Maybe. Or maybe it's just damage control. Who knows? It's like a soap opera playing out in real time.
It's easy to forget that these are real people with real feelings behind the headlines. It's tough, like when you put yourself out there like that.
Totally. And, Zach, especially with his music, it's also personal.
Exactly. He pours his heart out in his songs and people connect with that,
But it comes with a price.
For sure. They feel like they know him and then they feel like they can judge him, his relationships and everything.
Right. And that whole Kanye West, Taylor Swift thing didn't help.
Oh, man. Talk about a public trial by social media. It's hard to know what he meant by that tweet.
I know, right? Was he really comparing them or was it just a mistake?
It doesn't even matter, though, because social media just took it and ran with it.
And blew the whole thing out of proportion.
Exactly. It's like nuance just goes out the window and everyone's an expert.
Yeah, everyone's got an opinion.
It's this perfect storm of judgment and outrage, and it can be really damaging.
So how do you even deal with that? Is there a way to disconnect when your whole life is so public?
No, it's got to be hard. And it's not just Zach either. Brianna, too. She's built her whole brand on being open and sharing her life.
So how does she even talk about this without, making it worse,
Right. She doesn't want to exploit the situation, but she also wants to be authentic.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure.
Yeah.
If she doesn't say anything, people will talk.
Exactly. But if she shares too much, then it looks like she's trying to get attention.
There's no winning.
It's this pressure to always be sharing and oversharing even.
Because if you're not online, you don't exist, right?
Right. And that's tough for anyone, but especially when you're already dealing with a breakup.
Makes you think about all those other celebrities who've been through this kind of thing. It would be really interesting?
What's that?
Going on that podcastworld.io and seeing if there are any podcasts about this kind of thing. Like, how do other celebrities deal with this pressure?
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I bet there are tons of podcasts about that.
You could like ask it, how do celebrities handle breakups? And it would find all the best podcast episodes.
That would be so helpful.
Yeah.
It's like having a direct line to people who've actually been through it.
Exactly. But okay, so back to Zach and Brianna. How do you see this breakup affecting their careers?
Hmm.
You know, it's weird to think about, but this might actually be good for his music.
Oh, totally. Heartbreak will make you write a hit country song every time.
Right. Like everyone's already saying some of the songs on his album are about her.
People are reading into every lyric for sure, trying to figure out the timeline.
It's like they want there to be drama, I guess.
Mm.
Makes you wonder if it's even possible for artists to keep their personal lives private anymore.
Especially these days with social media, it's like everything's out in the open.
Yeah, and Brianna too. Like she's built her whole brand on being open and honest.
Right, so how does she even talk about this without it seeming like she's, trying to capitalize on it?
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk because she wants to be authentic, but she also doesn't want to overshare.
Totally.
Mm.
And then there's the whole thing of like, if she doesn't say anything, then people will think she's hiding something.
It's lose-lose.
Right. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
I think it really highlights the pressure to always be sharing your life online.
Yeah, even when you're going through something difficult.
Exactly. And ultimately, it's up to them how they want to handle it moving forward.
Yeah. But I think we can all agree, this whole thing just shows how intense the spotlight can be.
For sure. It's like everyone feels entitled to an opinion on these celebrities' lives.
And it's not just celebrities either. It's like anyone who's ever put themselves out there online.
True. It can be really overwhelming, I think.
It makes you wonder if it's even possible to find real, genuine connection when you're always worried about what other people think.
That's the question, isn't it? It's like, how do you protect yourself in your relationships in this day and age?
That's something to think about, for sure.
It's all about setting boundaries, right? And knowing your own limits.
Yeah, and remembering that you don't owe anyone anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's your life.
Well, this has been quite the conversation. I feel like we've gone really deep on this one.
We really covered a lot of ground.
So what have we learned today? I guess the main takeaway is that fame is complicated.
For sure. And social media makes it even more complicated.
Definitely. It's like a whole other layer of pressure.
But at the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that these celebrities are just people, too.
Yeah, they have feelings just like the rest of us.
Exactly. And sometimes they just need a little space to figure things out.
Well said. All right, listeners, that's it for today's deep dive.
Until next time.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. And if you're looking for more podcasts on fame, heartbreak, or anything in between, make sure to check out podcastworld.io.
It's the best way to find your new favorite podcast.
See you next time.